Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet, and my co-host is Scott Strasser. Hi, Scott.
Jason, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good night. It's a little different. We're recording a little bit earlier in the week this week because of some travel plans, and also it's probably good considering some of the things we're going to be talking about actually transpire a little bit earlier in the week this week.
Yeah, so in order to be time sensitive, it's going to probably come out a day or two earlier than usual, Wednesday or possibly Thursday this week instead of a Friday morning release. But we'll get into why that is. One of our guests, I guess our guest this week, will kind of talk about that.
And if you are a new listener to our podcast, Scott, what is the YYC Soccer Podcast all about?
We focus on soccer in Calgary at the amateur, collegiate, and professional level. We talk about the teams and we interview the players and coaches from the city's soccer community, whether that's grassroots or amateur leagues up to university and professional teams.
In this episode, we're going to talk a lot about post-secondary soccer. We're going to talk about Mount Royal and the men's team and their big victory on the weekend. And we're also going to talk about the SAIT women. And we'll talk a bit about the NCAA women's soccer. Their championship tournament is all coming into place this upcoming weekend. So university heavy today. And I think we got plenty to talk about.
Definitely. It's that time of year where university soccer is wrapping up with conference championships and national championship tournaments. The big story for us tonight is obviously about Mount Royal University. Their men's team was able to win the program's first ever Canada West championship by upsetting University of British Columbia Thunderbirds 1-0 last weekend to claim Mount Royal's first conference title, but also Calgary's first Canada West title since 1980 when the Dinos won it on the men's side. So very historic weekend for Mount Royal last Saturday, and honestly quite a bit of an upset. Even though they were the home team, UBC is kind of a perennial juggernaut in Canada West soccer. So I know I have to confess I really thought UBC was going to win this one for their, I think, 6th straight championship, and Mount Royal was able to beat them 1-0 with Calgarian Ethan Keane scoring the winning goal in the first half. So a great day for MRU soccer. And I know that's kind of going to be a big focus of our episode this week, but we also have a few other university soccer connections to talk about with regards to Calgary. So excited to delve into it.
That is going to be our big interview for this week. We were able to catch up with Ryan Gyaki, the head coach of Mount Royal Cougars, earlier today, and we got to ask him a little bit about how that game went on the weekend and plan for nationals going forward.
Yeah, we managed to talk to Ryan Gyaki. We also had a very brief interview with David Schaefer, who's a member of the team. Decent amount of goals for the Cougars this season as an international player. It was really, I think, not lucky, but it was great to get a hold of them because, yeah, like you mentioned, they've been in Nova Scotia for 2 days, 1 day already, and they're obviously busy with preparing for their game and settling in at their hotel and all that kind of stuff. So we do appreciate that Ryan and David were willing to put aside some minutes to talk to us about Saturday's win, which it was interesting. He kind of talked about how it almost hasn't sunk in yet what they've accomplished, because since that game, they've been in go mode as they've had to prepare for this trip out east. So in case any of our listeners don't know very much about Ryan Gyaki, he is the head coach of Mount Royal University's men's soccer team. Before that, he had a playing career of his own. He spent some time with Sheffield United and Hansa Rostock out in Europe, in England and Germany, respectively. I think knee injuries in particular kind of derailed his playing career and turned him into a coach while he was still in his 20s. Before he went to Europe, I know he spent some time with the Calgary Storm in the early 2000s. I don't think he was there for a long time, but I know he at the very least played a couple of games or one game. No, he's been the head coach of MRU since 2015, so I guess 8 seasons now, and the program has really been on an upswing since he took over. MRU hasn't actually been in U Sports all that long. I think they joined in 2012 or 2013. So I think he's maybe their second head coach since they've been in U Sports, but definitely a great achievement for MRU to secure that conference title. And yeah, very interesting. I know you mentioned they're top seeded for nationals, which is maybe a bit ironic considering this is their first ever trip to nationals. But yeah, we'll run that interview now.
Yeah, we'll run it now. And I just want to mention there was a little bit of a technical glitch. So our asking the first question was cut off, but we're going to start running it. And The first question to Ryan was, how was he feeling a couple days after the historic win? He'll start answering there and we'll go from there. So we'll run that now.
Yeah, very weird experience in the sense of you almost didn't get to celebrate it because of all the work of, I think there's about 30 of us traveling total with social media and medical and our athletic director. And there's just so much going on and all the equipment. And, at university, we don't have the equipment managers, and you have more responsibilities as the head coach because you don't have as many full-time staff. Like you don't have full-time assistant coaches and whatnot. So you have a lot that you have to take care of. Truly enjoy it yet. I think it'll be when nationals are done.
UBC has been a top team for years, and they were ranked number one throughout the season. What do you think were the factors or strategies that led to you guys to get the victory here and win the championship?
I have so much respect for UBC, for the players, for the coaching staff. I think I even said to them after, what I love about them is they are so good and yet so humble and kind and considerate, and even, win with grace and lose with grace. The amount of text message I received from even some of their alumni and from Mike, they're just such a class team going into the game, and then being ranked number one. With us not traveling, we were able to prepare a little bit better for them, purposeful for one team. Throughout the year, you don't get that ability to prepare for. You have maybe 3 to 4 days of training, but you have 2 games Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday. And sometimes you've traveled until a Sunday, so you can't train, and you've just had 2 games. So you can't train Monday. And then so you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but you're playing again Friday. And then you have Friday, Saturday. So it's impossible to do all the moments and all the tactical phases of a game, especially for 2 different opponents that play different styles. So I think us being at home was a huge, huge advantage. I thought the fans were incredible. The alumni, the university did a great job setting up the game. And just having that extra day at home really helped, and the quarterfinal, semifinal, just being at home was a major advantage. And then actually having that extra day to prepare specifically for UBC, I think gave us a bit of an advantage going into it. UBC has the same issue that we have. You're preparing to play a final, which means a lot, but you're also preparing from the logistics side of getting a team all the way across Canada for nationals. So I think that home field advantage played a bigger role than usual. And it's hard to say what the final factor is when 2 teams, in my opinion. I think it was an incredible game of the stingiest defense versus the best attack. Just so many interesting statistics that kind of balanced out. So it was going to be a tough game. And at the end of the day, I think most of those are a 50-50. It's a coin toss. And the home field advantage was huge.
So speaking more about the championship game itself, it was obviously a 1-0 result, which is evident of a tightly fought battle. Ethan Keane scored the winning goal fairly early. It was still the first half.
Yeah.
Were there any moments apart from that goal where you felt like you had this game, or were there any moments that kind of stuck out to you as being particularly critical, like a key tackle or save or something along those lines?
I wouldn't say there's a key moment. I think the opening 20 minutes was really interesting for us. I was super delighted with how the players reacted to what we asked of them to do in training, and they've just been a special group as far as applying tactical concepts without overdoing it. Some teams will kind of take what you say too literally and stop making their own decisions on the field, whereas this group's been really amazing at getting the mix right between just reacting to what's happening on the field while still trying to execute the game plan. And so for the first 20 minutes, how calm I thought we were with the ball. UBC is so good at attacking. So for us, it was important to, we're good at defending and they're great at attacking, but if we could keep the ball more and make them run more to defend us, we felt that would kind of tilt the game in our favor. And I thought the first 20 minutes, you could see that happening. I thought the ability to regain possession from us in the first 20 minutes was great. And Ethan Keane actually had a golden opportunity before the goal. So it was a very similar scenario. But sadly, the ball was just coming at him a touch too fast and he didn't hit it cleanly and missed almost a sitter as well. So I thought those opening minutes were very interesting, and we felt that we were actually the calmer of the 2 teams. And there was a couple, I wouldn't say critical moments, but UBC has such great players, and they'd make a simple technical error and the crowd would get on them, and you could just feel that something was turning there a little bit. And then obviously the last 20 minutes, some of the claims on crosses or saves that our keeper made, Aiden, were just amazing. But
actually, you mentioned Aiden there just a minute ago, and I want to ask about him. So Aiden is a guy who you've got a lot of connections to, I believe. He first-year player with the club, but I think he's been with Rangers, right? So you've known him for a long time, and he's had quite a good rookie season. Second-team All-Star, all-rookie team, 11 clean sheets, which I think is a record. So can you talk about that a little bit, about your relationship and how he's played this year?
I didn't even really know Aiden that well through Rangers. We actually recruited him in the COVID year, but then that was a tough time for everyone that was dealing with that in different scenarios. But for a high school kid transitioning to university, it's extremely challenging to navigate that. And it just didn't work out for him to stay with us at that time. Him coming back was the biggest surprise, because I thought, he might be just done with football, period. And then to get that phone call with him was so surprising. And especially with losing Sterling Kerr, with him going to the Cavalry, and it was amazing to have him come back. So, and that maturity, right? Because he wasn't coming in as a true first year anymore, I think has really benefited him. And then of course the team, he's just been such a rock for the team, and, even for the staff. He's one of the guys who'll come check in on us and see how we're doing, instead of the other way, all of us checking on the players. So he's mature beyond his years, on the field and off the field.
Yeah, he definitely had an amazing season. So I wanted to ask you about another aspect of the team, which I know you talked to Ben Steiner from 49 Sports a while ago. He wrote a good piece on the program. It looks like, there's some Germans on the team at the moment, like David Schaefer and Benedict Mell. We know other U Sports programs like Cape Breton comes to mind have done a little bit of that, like international recruitment. Is that something that you feel has really helped MRU in recent years from a recruitment strategy standpoint, and how so?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been one of the key things for us. And when I first started, and you looked at the teams like UBC, and we said, that's the level we aspire to get to at some point. So we started to go into BC to try to recruit, but very quickly we recognized it's going to be impossible or very difficult to get a great player that's going to help us beat a team like UBC, when we can't offer them a full ride like they can in the States. We're not allowed to pay for food and housing. And then there's the climate issue. So why are they going to leave home in BC to come play in Calgary, where we don't have the climate to play outdoors all year? And that was a tricky recruiting problem. And then with other bigger schools than Mount Royal, with just number of students, programs offered, master's programs. We're at a major disadvantage there with master's programs and just even engineering, right? We lose out. There's so many players on engineering. So that's when we started saying, well, we have to probably look at players. We can't go to the same pool that the top universities in Canada are looking at, because we just can't compete with them from the academic reputation, the athletic reputation, and the programs that they offer, and scholarship, right? We just didn't have that opportunity, where players from Europe are very good. They're incredibly grounded for the most part, the players that we've encountered that have come to Mount Royal. They have an incredible understanding about the game from a tactical standpoint. They grow up around it. They watch it. They go to the stadiums with their family every weekend. It's just a different world compared to what a lot of players experience in Canada growing up around football. So we recognized that there was an opportunity to get them over here, because they are very good, and there's just a bigger pool to select from. It's been undoubtedly a key to our success is supplementing the great players that we do get from in Calgary and Canada with the other players where we just might not be able to find that guy. For a good example is our captain, Caden. I mean, the guy's incredible. He's from Calgary, went with Foothills, then came to us and was trained with the USL2 team. And that's how I got to know him when I was working with Leon with the USL2 team. And he's incredible, but we supplemented him with an English center back and a German center back, whereas it's hard to find three more Cadens within Calgary or within Canada. There's just not that many players in that every age group that have that ability and physicality and understanding of the game. So yeah, absolutely massive part to what we've done. And it's better to be a bad coach with good players than a good coach with bad players. that's why we try to go get the good ones.
I want to ask about connections here between MRU and Cavalry. So some MRU players have been drafted in the U Sports draft, like Mo Elgander, and there's the connections with Sterling Kerr and Nicholas Moroniak. Do you think this kind of opportunity has bolstered the personal development of these players, like the chance to interact with Cavalry?
Huge. Undoubtedly, it's been so impactful for them. It's been so healthy for them. And, it's been a really great working relationship with them. We've had a lot of staff kind of intertwined as well. Yeah, and whether they start with us and then go to them or work part-time with them and help us part-time as well. So there's been a good relationship there. So that's been really positive. Obviously, when they have a bunch of guys that join in, if they're looking at them for training camps and stuff like that, it makes a huge impact to get to train with older players that have experienced more things and have a better understanding of the game. So it's definitely had a major impact and positive impact on our players. And then I think the biggest thing would be that it helps for our players to see across Canada, regardless of which university you're at, that there truly is a pathway to, hey, I'm going to study, I'm going to play in a league that can help me develop and help me grow. And if I perform well and train well every day and put the effort in over years, that I do have an opportunity to still go play professionally. And I think that's something that the CPL has been so important. And I'm so happy that that pathway is there now. And the Cavalry has been a huge part of that.
Yeah, it's definitely a great carrot on the end of the stick for players. Ryan, I know you've been with MRU for quite a while now, right? Since 2015.
That long? Is that long?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What's
time flies.
Yeah, and it seems like the program has really grown throughout your time there. What would you say from an individual perspective? Like, what lessons have you learned as a coach that have helped you over the time period?
How much time do you have? Yeah, I think for me the experience that I've had has been a bit unique in the sense that I wasn't really looking for a head coaching role when the opportunity came up. I was still very young, wasn't playing anymore. I wish I was still playing, but just didn't have that opportunity to keep playing. And then ended up with the head coaching role for me. There were some positives to getting it so early, but on the same note, you don't get to watch other people's mistakes, watch other people's failures, learn from people who've been doing it for 20 years. So as exciting as it was at the time, looking back, even when I was younger and that opportunity came up, I did know that I wish I had been able to be an assistant coach for a much longer time before getting the head coaching role. So there are so many mistakes with substitutions, roster selection. Even when I first started, there's so many topics you can teach, and it's overwhelming, to be honest. Every preseason, it's frightening how much you have to teach the team until it looks even close to what you think a team should play like and look like. So I would used to coach way too many topics overall. Sessions would be too long. I'd walk away from sessions and feeling like the players hadn't learned anything. They're all looking at me in the car right now. I'm like, we still don't ride, but that's a different topic. But being a little bit more purposeful with, we don't have that much time in the university league. So let's be very good at 2 or 3 things. And then once those are established, we can start adding a little bit more to that. That was a huge lesson, taking gambles in games with substitutions. And I think for the first 2 or 3 years when we finally made playoffs, we'd get to a playoff game, we'd try something new. And that was, I don't know why we did that. That was very immature and sounds good on paper, didn't work well when we got to the field. Another big one, the hardest one that I deal with as being a young coach is dealing with players from a relationship standpoint. When you have to make tough decisions, it kills you. Definitely have made wrong decisions in the past based on emotions rather than what I believe is right tactically and from what I'm seeing. So that was a huge learning curve. And, the biggest thing for me that over the years is being able to see a player, not for how they're playing, but where they can end up. And that definitely takes time to understand. And I don't think there's any way, there's no course, there's nothing you can do to get better at that other than is suffer through the mistakes. Even if you're watching someone else do them, if you're an assistant coach, when you finally get to be the head coach, you're going to struggle with that. So yeah, it's been a huge learning curve. And I have to be honest, every year you go into it thinking, I don't know how I'll improve as a coach. I just don't know what that next step is. Not that you think, I'm that good of a coach. You just don't know, like, where is the next thing that can help the team. And then every year there's something that you see and clicks and just changes something a little bit. So I wish it was a quicker process, but it sure is slow and painful.
I love that answer, Ryan. Lots of introspection. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Ryan, what do you think the championship victory means to the team and also to the greater MRU community that's supported you over the years? There was a pretty good crowd at the match, and it is a pretty big accomplishment. First Calgary-based team to win since 1980. So
wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, it was Dinos in 1980. Is that right, Scott?
Yeah, it was Peter Welsh's UFC Dinos team.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, I think, for the staff, especially coaching at the university level, is not quite the same as pro because the players aren't paid the same or even close to the same. They're studying full time. Most of them don't have a lot of money, so they're working on the side as well. So as a coach, a couple of years ago, it really changed for me in the sense that you coach for the team and not for where am I going next as a coach or anything like that, because it's super difficult as a coach to move forward, and university level is such a wonderful place to be anyways. The players put so much time into every session and every season, and then for the most part, the chance of winning is not high. To finally be able to hug all the guys and have that reward that the effort does pay off, because sometimes when you miss that final step by just a little bit, it can feel like, why do we do all the effort? And so I think that for the players was extremely rewarding. I was delighted for them to be able to experience that, and you don't get those experiences all the time in life. So that was incredible for just this group. From the alumni side, I mean, when we started, we were not a good group of a good brand of football on the field. They worked hard. They were great characters, good players, but it wasn't the same brand as what we have now. And we didn't win as many games, and they still put in the effort and they still put in the hours, and they kept coming to training and kept fighting every weekend for points. So for them to see that all their effort finally turned into something, what the boys did on the weekend was based off of all those years of the alumni, when the program wasn't supported, when the league just wasn't the same as it is now, and it didn't have the same support financially as it does now. So for them, that was an incredible moment. And then Mount Royal does an incredible job now of our facilities with the 4 grass fields and athlete only weight room and the locker rooms. Just the facilities are incredible. That takes a lot of effort and maintenance. Our athletic department and the recreation department, just how much is going on behind the scenes, from how many people work on it to make the team run, it's hard to explain. It's hard unless you're in it. You can't imagine the amount of work that goes into it. And so to be able to actually hang up a banner and have a trophy in the hallways, something tangible that says it's worth it when you do all the effort, I think is pretty huge. And for the other teams as well, last year our women's team winning nationals, and this year being able to hoist a Canada West banner, it's incredibly important, and delighted that the lads were able to pull it off for the university and for the team.
Last question from us, Ryan, is about the upcoming tournament, right? You guys are out in Nova Scotia, big opportunity to build on your conference success at nationals. What's the goal? Like, do you guys think of yourself that you've beaten a team like UBC, which is obviously ranked first Canada wide? Do you see like a podium finish, like another championship as a possibility? What's kind of a goal?
Yeah, it's a great question. For Mount Royal, I think about 4 years ago, we started really taking on the kind of underdog, that we're the underdog and going to upset teams. And we've actually ended up as the number 1 seed at nationals in our first ever nationals berth. So definitely a very confusing feeling there, right? When you're going up against 7 powerhouses that have legacy and tradition and history in the youth sports league. So for us to now be going into the national championship as the first seed, there's maybe from some people the expectation that you need to fulfill that, but for us, we're not really the same. Even with the Canada West banner or the championship, it wasn't really about the results. We just focused on what we do in training and each moment of the game, and just keep focusing on that. So it hasn't really been a discussion as a group to say, oh, this is our this has to happen, or this is what we define as success, or this isn't what we define as success. Yeah, we'll just go it step by step and try to focus more on the process rather than the result. But at the end of the day, you don't get a team that I think we've lost 3 games in 2 years. I don't know the exact stat, what it is, but we haven't lost much in the last 2 or 3 years. That doesn't happen if the players aren't stepping on the field to go win. I mean, no one's coming out here. I think every single team that's out at nationals is out here to win the gold. And I just don't think you end up at nationals if you're not playing to win every single game.
No, definitely not, because they're all, of course, either conference champs or runners up.
Okay, thanks again to Ryan Gyaki for taking the time to do the interview. I think now we're going to run the David Schaefer portion as well. So for those of you who aren't familiar with David Schaefer, he is one of the international contingent on MRU. He's from Germany. Is it Berlin?
Yeah,
I believe.
Well, it says on his bio that he's from Berlin. Yeah.
So, and he had quite a successful season. He was one of the Canada West first team All-Stars for attacking players this year. And he's had a pretty good year. And we did have a chance to ask him a few questions. So we'll run that now.
Now we're going to have a quick chat with David Schaefer, who's a Berlin-born member of the MRU Cougars team. David has had a great season this 2023 campaign. And we're just going to grab a couple of reactions from him about Saturday's game. David, congrats on the huge win. What was it like as a group to achieve that last weekend?
Obviously something very historic for us and a great feeling to celebrate together as a team and with all the people around, people that my staff, our friends and families, have them all there with us in that moment was, I think, the best feeling.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the championship match? And you were facing UBC, who's been top ranked all year. And do you think there was anything specific strategies that you guys used to help defeat them this time? Was there anything specific?
Well, first of all, I'd say it was a pretty even match. And I think we've done well to come out on top of it. But in terms of our strategy and game plan, I think what we trained during the week and what we prepared worked out really well. And I thought we went into the game confident and with a good plan, especially defensively. I thought we were hard to break down. And I think that's what got us the win.
Now, it's obviously been a historic season for MRU. David, what has it been like to be a part of this group? Because MRU's been getting stronger and stronger for the last couple of years, and it seems like, the trajectory of the team has just been upward. So what is the mood around the group and in the locker room, and what is it like to be part of a team that is clearly clicking so well?
Yeah, it's obviously exciting, especially looking at the last couple of years where we've also had really strong teams and just fell short by short margins in the semifinal. And we just kept building every year and kept trusting in the process. And I think, it's something we all deserve, whether it's the new guys coming in or people that have been here for longer. It's obviously what we've been working for years. So it was a relief to finally get to this point.
I want to ask one more question about nationals. So your first match is Thursday against York. What's it like preparing for this tournament? These are, UBC is there, but all these other teams are kind of unknown entities to you. What's it like to prepare for teams that you really probably don't know all that much about?
I mean, obviously, maybe there's a small advantage for other teams that have all been in this national championship before, and we're kind of the new kid on the block, but we go in as the first seed, and I think it's an exciting time for us. So we don't know much about the teams. Obviously, it's different playing against teams that you haven't played against yet, but I think we're well prepared as a group. We just look forward to these games.
Awesome. That was all we were going to ask, David. But is there anything else you'd like to mention or touch upon before we let you go, get back to your studying?
I'd just like to mention that we're very thankful for our staff, for the school, and for all the supporters that have supported us along the way. And we're going to try to bring it home for them.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time. We really appreciate you coming on our podcast, and we wish you best of luck with these upcoming games at Nationals.
Thank you guys too.
All right, thank you. All right, thanks again to David Schaefer and also to Ryan Gyaki for taking the time to do these interviews. This was pretty cool, wasn't it, Scott? I kind of enjoyed chatting with them and getting their reaction. And it is kind of crazy how, they didn't really have a chance to spend a lot of time thinking about all this because they got to get on a plane and they got to go to Nova Scotia because nationals. So it's a real quick turnaround.
Yeah, and Ryan really went into like the details of the logistics of needing to sort out planes and needing to make sure you have your transportation sorted for when you arrive and your hotels and everything. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. And like he said, MRU doesn't have this huge staff that's going to take care of that kind of stuff. It's kind of up to the few people they do have to kind of make those arrangements. So hopefully they're still able to adequately prepare for that first game they've got on Thursday. And I'm curious to see how they fare at nationals, because I know there's some good soccer teams in this country and in this tournament.
There's a whole bunch of good teams there. And I did want to mention real quickly, there are actually quite a few Calgarians involved in this tournament outside of MRU. I guess the one obvious one to mention is UBC. They've got a whole bunch of Calgarians on their team, including former podcast guest Sebastian Zitkowski, who did win Canada West Most Valuable Player. Also, Brennan Furst. He was the Canada West Rookie of the Year. Marcus Kaiser, who I think a lot of people will remember him from his stint with Cavalry. And then there's a few others. There's Noah Herdlinka, Eric Kim, and Marcus Puhal. I think I got that sort of right. First match against York. There is a Calgarian on there. It's Vaughn Bianche. And then the last person to mention, I think that we were able to track down that's playing in this tournament for Cape Breton, Max Peepgrass, who did play a little bit for Cavalry as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of Calgarians. You have to wonder, I mean, is Calgary going to be the most represented city at this tournament, or will Vancouver be?
Well, I don't know, but when we talk about a couple of these Canada West All-Star things, we were going to add this in right away. I think some of these percentages of Calgarians on this is quite remarkable. I'm going to ring through the Canada West, some of the All-Stars, first team, second team All-Stars, and there's one area in particular that I thought was really interesting. So for the men's team, first team All-Stars, for defending players, and Defender of the Year, Caden Rogozinski of Mount Royal, he was on the first team. And for attacking players, David Schaefer, who we had just interviewed, top scorer for Mount Royal, he was also on the first team All-Star, and Sebastian Zitkowski from UBC. So 3 representatives from Calgary there. And then on the second team All-Star was a goalkeeper, Aiden Demoulin, and he's the Mount Royal keeper with 11 clean sheets. And we talked a little bit about him in our interview before with Ryan Gyaki. And for defending players, a couple of UBC players, Brendan Furst and Marcus Kaiser. On the second team for attacking players, Joss Flakesman from Mount Royal was included there. This is where I think it's interesting. You look at, for the men's side, there are 4 players from the all-rookie team, 4 out of 11, that are Calgarians, and that's Brendan Furst, Nicholas Moraniak from Mount Royal, Aiden Demoulin from Mount Royal, and Dominic Anamali from the Dinos. So that is overrepresentation, I would say, 4 to 7 on the rookie squad. So what do you think, Scott? That's a lot of accolades for local players.
It is, and kudos, Jason, for doing that digging. I think this is all further evidence of Calgary's recent growth as a soccer city and proof of the value of having, both a professional team in the city that local talented players can strive for, as well as now we have this proper development pathway with the AYSL leading up to League One Alberta. So you add in, some competitive university teams. All of a sudden, it's just going to start, taking off, and there's going to be more and more talented soccer players from Calgary. And we're going to, as cities, compete for national team placements with the likes of Vancouver, Montreal, and Toronto.
Yeah, well, we've already seen some of that already with seeing a few Calgarians on the men's national team. I think we're going to see some representation from Calgary on the women's national team pretty soon, I hope, especially with Maya Jones. I just think that she's got to get a call one of these days. I think that we're cheering her on. We think it's going to happen soon. And I don't know how they're going to be able to ignore her much longer if she keeps playing the way she's playing in Memphis.
Yeah, and there's going to be some spots available up front for Canada pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. So before we move on and talk about SAIT's women's team in particular, I did want to talk about Canada West women's all-star teams. And I thought we should mention the players and give some kudos there. So for first team all-stars, defending players for the Dinos, Sofia Di Giacomo was on the first team, And for attacking players, Rachel Barlow, former podcast guest from the Dinos, and Grace Masala, another former podcast guest for McEwen, all made the first team. On the second team, there was one representative from Calgary, and that was as a defending player, Sophie Fingerson of University of Victoria. So let's run through the Canada West Women's All-Rookie team here, and 6 of the 11 representatives are from Calgary. I'll read them off right now. So Tamara Jurisic from Mount Royal, Julia Kittleson from the Dinos, Eleni Georgakakos from UBC Okanagan, Kaylee Major from the Dinos, Danica Pulishi from the Dinos, and Brianne Wong from UBC Okanagan. That's crazy to me that when you think about all the schools, for example, in BC, just in general with population distribution, to have 6 of the 11 on the rookie team being from Calgary.
Yeah, and kind of just to reiterate what I said about the men's side, it's we're growing the game in Calgary bit by bit, and there's, you know, with the likes of Foothills WFC to strive toward, there's just more opportunities, and it's just going to overall result in our city having more and more representation on national teams and in lists like these.
Let's transition over to SAIT and the women's team. They're off to national championships as well this weekend. They're in Summerside PEI, and SAIT's first matchup is on Thursday against Saint Foy.
And this will be SAIT's first trip to nationals since 2021 when they collected bronze. There may still be a player or two involved with the team who are on their last trip to nationals, but for a lot of them, it's going to be their first time.
One of the people they will be facing in this tournament is from Seneca College, Shanice Alfred, who's from Airdrie, and we did interview her, I think it was in the summertime.
Yeah, May or June, I think it was still pretty early into our podcast.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I believe Seneca is one of the top-ranked teams in this tournament, so it's entirely possible that they'll be facing her at some point. But yeah, it's nice to see another one of our podcast guests go on to some postseason success. We'll be watching with a lot of interest to see what happens for the Trojans women and also for the Cougars men. So let's talk a little bit of NCAA. They wrapped up their regular season here this past weekend, and there's a couple teams we're always paying attention to. I guess the first one we always want to talk about is the University of Memphis Tigers, and they won their conference championship tournament, and they're off to the big tournament. Their record is 18-1, and they're currently on a 15-game winning streak. So they're on fire right now, basically.
Yeah, this is a Calgary-heavy team that we've interviewed 2 of the Calgarians on the Tigers roster, those being Maya Jones, who we've already mentioned this episode, as well as the other 3 are Anna Hauer, who was a podcast guest just a few weeks ago, and then Grace Storty and Isabel Monk, who 3 of them, those 2 alongside Maya Jones, also played for Foothills WFC in the summer. So 4 Calgarians on the Tigers team this year, and yeah, they've just been steamrolling their conference. And I believe Maya Jones scored the winning goal for Memphis on Sunday. So she's having quite a great season, staying injury-free. And like we've kind of talked about in recent episodes as well as farther back, it seems like a pro career is imminent for her after she finishes her university career.
I agree that Maya Jones has done everything she could do this year to lead her team and play well individually. And I think her stock has nothing but risen over this fall. And yeah, I agree. I think a pro career is pretty imminent for her. And hopefully she does get the call to the women's national team sooner as opposed to later.
And then I know another team in the NCAA that you pay pretty close attention to, Jason, is the University of Maine, who will be making their first national appearance against number 4 ranked Harvard, which is a university I think most people will be familiar with.
Yeah, my understanding was that it was a little bit of an upset. I don't think they were as highly touted as Memphis going into their tournament. I think they have the 3rd best record in their conference, but they were able to win the final. And yeah, there's 4 players on that team that have Calgary connections. There's Rebecca Gridsdale and Mila Schneider and Emma Schneider and Victoria Dungy. So good luck to the 4 of them. And I know by looking at the social media stuff, seems like they're pretty excited making their first tournament appearance. So see what happens.
Yeah. And then some other Calgary connections in NCAA nationals. Texas A&M team, there's a Calgarian named, is it Anderson Williams?
Mm-hmm.
and they play Colorado with Hannah Dugwood from Calgary.
Yeah, I think Anderson has played for Foothills WFC at some point. I know she's, from following along this year, she's played a bit. She's not a regular starter for Texas A&M. I believe she's in her senior year. Hannah Dugwood, I'm not sure she's playing right now. I think she might be injured because I tried to look up her stats and there doesn't seem to be anything recently. So she may not be playing in this game, but there's a lot of Calgary connections on there and see what happens. But I think Memphis is certainly a team to watch if you're a neutral in Calgary, just wanting to know what's going on with soccer down there. I think it'd be natural to gravitate to that team for sure.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what like the powerhouse women's programs would be in the NCAA? Who would be like the toughest nut to crack for Memphis?
So when you look at the bracket, there's 4 number 1 seeds, and the number 1 seeds are Florida State, Brigham Young, Clemson, and UCLA. Florida State is not the number 1 seed in the bracket that Memphis is ranked number 6 in. So those are 4 of the teams to watch. I think UCLA is kind of like the UBC of NCAA soccer. I think they're a perennial powerhouse pretty much every year. I don't know how often they win the national championship, but I think they're right up there and they're always kind of a number 1 or 2 seed.
Right. That sounds about right. And I know on the men's side, UCLA has had a lot of really dominant eras as well throughout the decades.
I'd like to thank again our guests this week, Ryan Gyaki and David Schaefer. And we'll be back next week and we're going to recap everything that's happened. And best of luck to both teams, the Trojans women and the Cougars men. And anything else you want to add in, Scott?
No, I think it was great to talk about post-secondary soccer this week. Obviously, the CPL season having wrapped up means that there wasn't professional soccer to talk about like we have been doing for the last couple of months. For tonight, I think we've probably covered a good amount of topics.
Thank you for listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast. You can subscribe to this podcast using all the usual podcasting platforms. Head over to our website at yycsoccer.com, where there's more information about how to subscribe or to leave a question or comment. And you can follow us on Twitter at YYC Soccer 403. Thanks for listening.